Welcome to the Love Lab podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you. Because, well, sex matters. We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Céline Remy. All right, welcome back to the Love Lab podcast, and this is episode 58. And it is titled, Is Porn Hurting or Helping Your Relationship?
Oh, I can't wait to dive into this episode. But before we get started, let's do a big shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Power and Mastery, the most complete sexual mastery training for men. So whether you want to have harder, stronger erections, last longer, or expand your sexual skills, like Power and Mastery is designed to help you develop your physical and mental stamina and enhance your sexual abilities. So you can find all about Power and Mastery at powerandmastery.com.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really great episode. But before we get there, I really do want to make clear, we're not against porn.
Okay.
We're not 100% for porn either, but we're not against porn. And you'll understand what we mean by that as we go through this episode. And I also want to say, for full transparency, that we do advertise some of our products, or at least we have in the past, on porn sites, because that's where our audience is.
Well, that's also where you can advertise about sexual products and sexuality, you know. You can be on Facebook.
No. So all of that to just let our listeners know that we are not against porn at all. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to talk about in this episode is, you know, the places where it can be unhealthy, the places where it can be healthy, and if you are going to choose to use it, how to do it properly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But first, we're going to start with some fun statistics.
All right.
So these stats actually come from Pornhub's 2018 sort of like year in review, where they put out this report every year about the statistics of use of their site. So there's some really interesting stuff. We've used some of these stats before in other episodes.
Yeah, we have. I love, like, if you ever go on there and just type like Pornhub and statistic and stuff like this, they show up and they make all these cool graphic, and it's really neat. And every year they put out numbers, and you can really see the growth, the changes over time, and the trends, and what's hot and what's not. So yes, one of the things that we have found is, well, number one is there are 92 million daily average visits on Pornhub a day. Like 92 million.
That's one site, Pornhub, one porn site.
But one day.
In one day.
Wow.
And their stats show an increase every year. That was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So that means this year is probably even more than that.
Absolutely. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking at the infographics is that the US is the number one country to visit, for probably different reason. Maybe that's where the demographic is, at blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is that it's by more than double than the other countries, the number of visit of the US. So what that means is the US as a country is pretty pervy.
Yes, well, there's potentially a lot of reasons for that. Pornhub is a US-based site.
Yes.
So, you know, obviously for a lot of different reasons, like if you're on the other side of the world and you're searching for porn, it's not likely to be the first result you get, because it's going to show you stuff that's more in your language, your region, whatever. There's a lot of reasons potentially why that is. America's also a big country with a lot of people, but yes, Americans are pervy.
Well, and here's
doubt.
the thing. This, before we go to the other numbers, is to realize that there's a lot of people who go watch porn. It is something that's on people's mind a lot, and so there's still a lot of shame. There's still a lot of like negative emotion associated with porn, and I kind of want to say, like, chill out. Like, so many people are doing it, and like, it's time that we have a dialogue. And this is really why we're having this episode today, because we want to bring some understanding and some light on porn.
Yes. A lot of people are doing it. There's a lot of reasons for that. I would say that some of the reasons for the increase are obviously technology related, but some of them also are that our society is keeping us more and more distanced from actual human contact. So
Mhm.
there's lots of reasons for that. They're not really the scope of this episode, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on them. Let's go to the next statistic. And this was one that I want you to remember because we're going to come back to this later on in the episode. And that is the average duration worldwide is 10 minutes and 13 seconds. That means the average person spends 10 minutes, 13 seconds on a porn site.
We will come back
Just
to it.
remember that because we have a whole conversation about that.
And then the last one that I was interested in is the balance of gender. And 29% is female visitors. And it's up by 3% from the previous year. And so it's interesting because oftentimes when we think of porn, a lot of people are like against it, thinking like it's women that are against porn, or they're saying it's only for men who want to objectify women. And I kind of want to say, well, it's like nearly 30% of the visitors, like 29%, like it's nearly a third.
Exactly. I was just going to say that's nearly a third of the people watching it are women.
Yes. And so you got to realize that it has its appeal. I'm dealing more and more with women who use porn and and sometimes have issues with that. So understand that it's not just one gender, it's across both. It affects both people. And what I'm interested about is the next question. Because when we talk about porn and from the different people, one of the first thing that people say is, but what about this? Porn is cheating. So is watching porn cheating, really, Kevin?
No, it is not. Porn is not cheating. However, if you are using it and you are not admitting it or communicating about it to your partner, then that's potentially a problem. It's not cheating, but it's a communication problem that you have in your relationship.
Mm-hmm. So, it's something that's happening in your mind. Okay, sure, there's something visual and it's all happening in your mind and in your brain. So remember, we always say your biggest sex organ is between your ears. So when you use porn, you stimulate your brain, and that's how you can get excited. And if you view the private images or what's going on, the fantasies that are going on in somebody's head, and think that, well, that's cheating, you basically are never able to fantasize without that being considered cheating. You're never able to be having your own little fantasy world in your head. And I think that's a very dangerous path to go on. I think we should be able to cultivate and give it a proper place for our imagination, for fantasy, for using our minds in order to get aroused. And the more we will judge that, the more it will show up as sexual issues, dysfunctions, and problems in the bedroom.
Oh, well said. So basically, no, it's not cheating, but if you're going to use it, just make sure you communicate it with your partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have some more guidelines. We will give you some good guidelines at the end of the episode on how to use it. And I want to say, also full disclosure, I don't watch porn. Kevin doesn't watch porn. We're not very good at watching porn. And
well, actually, we have a very funny story about that, which is that when we did want to do some advertising for our products, when we knew that we were going to be advertising on a porn platform, because it was the only place that would let us do advertisements, even though the products have nothing to do with porn whatsoever, we thought, well, we should really go look at this site. We want to know what kind of stuff is here, and what do the ads look like. And we kept putting it off. We were
for weeks.
Yeah, you would think that most people would be like, oh my God, our homework today is to go look at porn. This is the greatest thing ever. We were like, do you want to do it tonight? I'm like, not really. Do you want to do it tonight? I'm like, not really. So, all right, well, we'll do it later in the week. We kept putting it off, which was pretty funny. So that was the first funny part about that story. The second funny part about that story is that we hired a graphic designer to help us build the ads for the platform, and the graphic designer happened to be a female. So we were a little concerned actually about hiring this person, because we were like, well, what if she's offended by the nature of the content? This, those are concerns that come up. So, but we approached her. We told her where we would be advertising and what types of stuff we wanted to do. And we said, but we're not really sure, how, like, what the best things is. And her response was, "Oh, don't worry about it. I watch porn all the time. I know exactly what to design for you." And we were both like,
Really?
"Really?
Oh,
Okay.
so we're so happy.
We found the right person."
And so to finish that story, we did end up watching porn together, and we did it together. And it was really funny because I wasn't liking what I was watching, and I was being aroused at the same time. And we had that, and I was like, I don't really like this. This is not like how we'd make love or anything like this. But I was like, if I'm honest, I'm kind of aroused. And then Kevin had a boner, so I knew he was being aroused. But it was funny. We were noticing like what was going on. But for us, it's definitely not something that we use or have used, just because we've been able to stay very connected to our bodies and in touch with our sexual energy. We didn't need this from the outside. So we have a different opinion maybe than somebody who always uses it. But we've worked with a lot of people, mostly men, who considered themselves addicted, who had issues that came from watching porn. And so I think this is kind of where I want to move into, is first of all, let's look at the positives of porn, and then we'll look at the negatives, because I think so many people always focus on the negatives, and we want to bring in some positive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because like we stated up front, we're not against it, and we can see where there are places where it can be beneficial. So we'll talk about that first, and then we'll go into the places where we think it can be not so beneficial. So first one, porn can be used to create excitement and desire. So in instances where, maybe couples have been together for a long time, maybe sex has kind of become boring and routine, and they need a little something to get themselves going, porn can be used as a way to sort of get that excitement going. I'll give one example actually of this, which is not really porn, but it's kind of similar, which is that you and I went to see a movie in the movie theater a while back. I don't know if you remember it.
Yes, it's Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman.
Yes, exactly.
I knew where you're going now.
And if you've not heard of the movie, it's supposedly the true story about the guy that created the Wonder Woman comic book, and how he actually had a polyamorous relationship where he had two wives, basically, although I don't think they were both married. So it kind of follows that, but there's one particular scene in it where they have a really quite well done and hot threesome scene. And we both came home from that movie, and we were like,
we had hot sex.
Straight to the bedroom, had hot sex.
So again, in porn, there's different level of porn, right? There's the soft porn, there's the erotica, and then there's a more hardcore one. And I noticed that for me, like, these type of things will turn us on. So we would be more into the soft porn or the erotica, where it's suggestive, but it's not so much the cum shot in your face or the full like zoom on the anus or pussy,
I don't mind. I don't mind that kind of stuff, really. But I'll tell you why it's not my go-to, and why the movie actually was better for me.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Because in so much porn, it has no heart. It's just like bam, bam, bam. Spit on you. Fuck this. Fuck that. And it's really. It's not loving, it's not caring, it's not even necessarily sensual in any way. It's just hardcore graphic porn, And what I loved about the movie was there was three people who had massive chemistry and attraction, and were in a very vulnerable position, and allowing themselves, a husband and wife, allowing themselves to have a threesome for the first time with somebody else, which was a very vulnerable thing for them to do. And you could feel that vulnerability, that emotion, like all of that stuff, along with the, sort of erotic parts of, two beautiful naked women and the whole thing. Like, so that to me was far more attractive than what we see in a lot of hardcore porn stuff.
Okay. Well, let's continue to our second points of positive for porn. Yeah, go porn. It can be used to keep sex interesting. And it kind of ties into the first one with excitement and desire. But I think also maybe to bring in new ideas or like think of new stuff or fantasies. So yeah, just keep the interest there.
It might give you some new ideas or bring some new things in. I think maybe it's just a different thing to do. It's like rather than, okay, let's go upstairs, you lay down, let's do our, few minutes of licking and stroking and then a few minutes of penetration, then done. Like rather than the boring routine, it's like, hey, maybe we start downstairs and we watch a little porn and then we go do this and then we go do, it's just something different to throw in the mix. Let's see, next one on the list. Okay, well, so sex could be potentially used if you say don't have an actual partner to have sex with. Now, what's funny is that when we put this on the list,
we said porn can be used in lieu of a sexual partner. Yeah, when Kevin said that, I was like, but why would you want to use porn instead of having sex with a partner? And I was like, you always have a partner. You've got yourself. And I was like, I don't like this one.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't want to use sex instead of having sex with a partner. And yes, technically sex with yourself is sex with a partner. That partner is yourself. But my answer to that was, hey, I'd like to see some tits, maybe a little vagina. It's like, I don't own any of those things. So, why not?
So yes, I mean, I can see that. I think also some people do use it as kind of that connection piece. And unfortunately, it's very sad because our world is now, we connect so much online, which is not real connection, but we feel more connected. And at the same time, we're so much more disconnected from ourselves and from each other. And so that's kind of, I see people using it as like, well, it feels like when she's looking at the camera, she's looking at me. And she's telling me she loves me or she wants me or I'm hot. So I'm living that fantasy through that.
Well, as long as you understand that that's just a fantasy and you don't take it seriously or literally, it can be a benefit.
Yeah, it makes you feel better. So, hey, anything that does makes you feel better can't be that bad, right?
There's a fine line there.
Okay, we'll get there. Well, the other good benefit of porn is that it's definitely a form of safe sex.
That is true. Totally safe sex. You're not going to get any STDs, any STIs. No one's going to get pregnant. Like, it's totally safe sex. Let's see. Next one on the list is helps you figure out what turns you on. So yeah, you might see certain things on there and go, oh, I had no idea that I was into that, or that I would potentially be into that. Because you never know. Once you actually try the real thing, you might be like, that was better in porn.
Yes.
And not so much in real life.
Yeah, we have a whole episode on sexual fantasies versus reality, debunking the myths, where we interviewed a erotic author, and she talks a lot about that. So check that one out if you haven't listened to it, because yes, it's true. Sometimes in your head is much better than in reality. And then remember that porn is great entertainment. It's entertaining and it's entertainment.
Yeah, it's totally entertainment. And, just like when you watch any other movie, you're like, yeah, it's just a movie. Well, when you watch porn, remember, it's just a movie.
Yeah, this is really what came up. Like when we were talking about that, prepping for this episode, and I was like, when you watch an action movie, a spy movie, and you can identify with the hero and his kick-ass and all of this, and like, yeah, it's like activating your inner bad guy or good guy or whatever it is. And then you're like, yeah, and it was just a movie. You'll live it there. Why don't people do the same thing with porn? Where you kind of go like and watch it and you're like, this was a good movie, and I live it there. Like I don't bring the expectations or the things in real life.
Hey, I identify with the man with the 10-inch penis. I can't help it.
Sorry, love. I don't think you do have a 10-inch penis.
Well, that's just because you didn't measure it properly.
Okay, I can't hurt his ego here.
All jokes aside, yes, it's a movie, right? That's all it is. They do edits. right? The guys don't necessarily last as long in those porn videos as it looks like. All kinds of things go wrong. The women aren't perfect. They have all kinds of issues and problems. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the series on Amazon called
Ask a porn star.
Ask a Porn Star. They will tell you, and this is male and female, all about the crazy stuff that goes on. It's a movie set. It's not real.
Yes. And it's funny because I had a client who came to me and was like, he's actually an older gentleman who's still a virgin. And so his sexual life is porn. And he was telling me, okay, so when I watch porn, I see what they do with their body, the way they move, or this, or the way he props himself. But I've got this knee injury, so this doesn't work. I don't even know how to fold my body this way. And I was like, you do realize that most of the time the positions they take are very uncomfortable, but they just for that particular moment, and they only have to hold it for like 2 minutes or 30 seconds. It's not something they are in it for like a half hour. And I was like, you also realize, right, that they have got fluffers, like meaning people that will help you get an erection and get you like going. And if the erection comes down, they do things in between. Like it's not always hard to rock like going for hours.
And they're probably 15 years younger than he is.
And so if you realize that porn is entertainment and it's not a place to get your education about sex, you're in a much better place.
Okay, so that's a great segue into where porn can be negative.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So remember that time that we gave you at the beginning of this episode, 10 minutes and 13 seconds. Let's talk about that time for a minute. That's the total time spent on a website, right? So think about this. You type in the URL, the web page comes up, you get the home page, right? So now you actually have to browse through the site. So maybe you got to find the genre that you're looking for. Once you find the genre you're looking for, you get all these different videos, and you got to go through the different videos and, weed out the ones that are just advertisements and junk, weed out the ones that don't have people that are appealing to you. Oh, that now you found the one that you want. How many minutes do you think that probably took? I'm guessing fastest about 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Which means that you've got about 7 to 8 minutes left to actually masturbate to this porn.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that you start masturbating the second that the clip comes on, which also probably doesn't happen. So what I'm trying to get across here is that especially if you're a man, you are training yourself to ejaculate way too quickly. Mm-hmm. Way too quickly. So, we've given this stat in, I don't even know how many episodes of this show so far, but that depending on the study that was done, the average man ejaculates in 3 to 5 minutes or 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, it's all under 10 minutes. Let's just put it that way. And you are actually training your body to do that. If you put on a clip, masturbate within less than 10 minutes, and then you're done with your porn. Mm-hmm. And the stats show us that this is true.
Yes.
Like, this is not just like, oh, some guys do that, but everybody else is like, no, if the average is 10 minutes, yeah, there's going to be some above the average, but that means 50% are below the average. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the things that we teach in our Master Your Ejaculation. We also talk about it in Power Up Your Erections. But the idea is, if you're having trouble as a guy lasting long enough to satisfy your woman, and we talk about what is long enough and all that in other episodes, but if you're having trouble and you're using porn regularly, you might want to see the habits that you're creating mm-hmm. when you're using porn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then also like the habit that you're creating to ejaculate quickly as soon as you're sexually aroused and turned on. Do you really think your body knows the difference? Oh, this is me in front of my computer and my screen, I can do this quickly. And then, oh, now this is me, sexy situation with this hot woman. It's like, no, knows no different. As soon as you're like getting turned on and excited, the whole thing of like excitement, ejaculation happens. And you're like, wow, why did I come too soon?
Yeah, it trains you to go from 0, which is not turned mm-hmm. on, to 10, which is ejaculate, like
way too quickly.
Pretty much instantly. Yeah.
Yes, and you do this enough time, which is daily for many. Some stats were saying that some people spend as much as 5 hours a week on porn sites.
Wow,
it's
that's a lot of training. Yeah. Well, think about that though. How many times you do that? So if you do that, once a day, even, mm-hmm. every day of the week.
That's over an hour.
Yeah, but think of like, repetition is how you get good at anything, right? If you want to learn to play the guitar, right? We got a bunch of guitars hanging here in the background. You got to play every day. That's how you learn how to do it. And it's anything else. You want to get good at anything, you have to do it all the time. So if you're doing this to porn all the time, you're training yourself to be good at being bad in bed.
Oh, that was very powerful. Make sure you listen to that one again. Okay, second thing that we see that porn has negative effects is that it can become addicting. And there are different opinions when it comes to what truly happens. Does it raise your dopamine level in your brain, which in turns makes you want to always go after the pleasure, and then you're addicted to that? Or does it not? You'll find both school of thoughts. Here's what I have noticed from experience from working with so many different people is our brains are sensitive, right? And it's not so much what you use, it's how you use it. And so at the base, like, porn is neither good or bad. Porn is entertainment. Porn is what it is. The way you use it and how you approach it is what makes it more or less addicting. And so if you're one person who can never masturbate without watching porn, you've probably become more addicted to it than you should. If you can't go on throughout your day without thinking about porn or having to be on porn sites for at least once or twice a day, then you probably are addicted. If you're having sex with an actual woman and you're thinking it's not as good as what porn gives me, you're probably addicted to that. And we're addicted to lots of small things. We can be addicted to eating cookies and sugars. We can be addicted to social medias. I mean, it does hijack our brains and changes how we respond to the stimulus, to what we get because of how it's built. And the only way to decrease the addiction is literally to take breaks. And it's always the same. Some people can do it like cold turkey. Some people need to like go slowly. But literally, like, if you think you're in the camp of the addicted, like, can you even go for a day, for a week without like going crazy thinking about it, or having to hold yourself back, chain yourself to your desk and like lock the computer? If you can't, then yeah, that might be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, anything can be addictive, right? Like, there's people that get addicted to exercise, even though technically exercise is good for you. And people get addicted to, when there was that whole fad about how much water you're supposed to drink. There were people who were addicted to over drinking water, which can also be bad for you, right? So, you can get addicted to anything. It's just certain things are a little easier to get addicted to than others. Sugar, caffeine, nicotine. There are certain things that have that sort of pull. And porn can be one of them. There are plenty of people who use it totally responsible and have no problems at all. And there's quite a few people that just literally get addicted to it. So it's something to be aware of, especially if you have a tendency to have an addictive personality.
Yeah, that's true. And then if you notice that you have sexual issues and problems, then that probably would be one of the first places to start to look at.
Yeah. So we're going to have to go a little faster on these. So the next one is, it gives you a lot of bad sex advice. Okay. So we already said that this is a movie and it's not real, right? It's just like you watch an action movie and you see these people like they're standing on top of a plane and then they leap off as the plane explodes and then they grab onto another plane. And then, it's like you're watching that going, yeah, right. This is fucking bullshit. Porn is the same way. Like, it's not, it's absolutely not the reality of what it's like to have actual sex. And that's why it's a little dangerous for young people to watch, because young people don't know what they don't know. And so then they watch porn and then they think, oh, I'm going to learn how to have great sex from watching porn. Not American porn.
Yeah. Okay. The other caveat here is about how it can desensitize you. And that's really more about how you use it and what you do. But some men, first of all, they don't really feel their bodies, their cock anymore, and they have to like jerk off really fast or put a lot of pressure to start to feel something again. And some of them are in a place where they don't find being with an actual human being as attractive as what's in porn. And I think that that's really when it gets in the way.
Yeah. And, we actually watched recently a movie, like a regular movie, that had to do with this topic. And it was called Don John.
Yes.
And what's very interesting is this is a young, very good looking man who gets all the girls, all the super hot ones, and he has sex with them on a regular basis because he works in a bar. But he's always disappointed because he has an addiction to porn, and the real thing is never as good as his porn. In fact, they show multiple scenes of him having sex with this, hot woman, and then like lying there awake while she's asleep, and then he goes in the other room and masturbates to porn. So it was just a very interesting movie, the way they showed how that can happen, that sometimes you can sort of get addicted to the fantasy of it, and then your reality doesn't match up to that fantasy. And let's be honest, if you're watching porn, you're most likely watching very attractive people that have very, let's say, abnormally proportioned bodies. Whether it's big penises, big breasts, whatever it is, right? And then you look around and you're like, not only do none of your partners look like that, you probably don't even have anybody in your social circle that looks like that, So the real thing just then doesn't compare to what you see in the fantasy realm, and that's where it can be dangerous.
So I want to remind you that porn can be used as an aid to pleasure, but shouldn't be the source of your pleasure, right? So it's kind of something that you can use and bring in. And I would love to explore a little bit now how to use porn. What are the ways for us, right?
So yeah, how to use it and how to use it the right way.
Yes.
Like how to use it responsibly, how to use it so that it becomes a positive thing in your life and not a negative thing.
Well, first of all, as a couple, I think it's such a great opportunity to explore fantasies together, to open a dialogue about sex and preferences, whether you've dreamt of having a threesome, and then let's watch a threesome movie together, like porn, and then be like, wow, I liked it, I didn't like it, this is what came up. Like, this is a great opportunity to talk about these things. And then it's also easier because you can discuss what you just saw. So you don't have to go back to past sexual experiences and then you get stuck into the performance or the comparison, all of that. You can just be like, this is what happened on the screen over there, and this is what, how it inspired me or didn't. And I think that could be a good opportunity for people who feel a little bit shy to talk about what they want and who don't know.
Yeah, so that could be another benefit, right?
Yes.
Is that you can use it to talk about the things that you like, don't like, want, don't want, that sort of thing. But so let's say now you're actually getting into you've already determined that you're going to use it. So how should you use it responsibly?
All right.
Well, the first thing is to use it moderately. It's like anything else, use it moderately. Like, don't make it become your every single day thing, every single time you have sex thing. Like, use it occasionally here and there when you need something different, or you want to talk about the things that you like or don't like or whatever, but just use it moderately.
Use it to get turned on, and don't always masturbate while you watch. So you don't always create that habit. Like that, it's not always like I masturbate, I come to porn. It's like, hey, I watch porn, I get aroused, and then I go on with my day, or I go and touch myself without the porn, like watching it. So that's another way of using it.
Yeah, and here's another big one for the guys, which is you have to use it as long as you want to last in bed with a woman, right? So if your number is like, hey, I want to be able to last 20 minutes, but you're always masturbating and ejaculating to porn in under 10 minutes, well, you're training yourself the wrong way, right? So you have to actually get through maybe 2 or 3 clips and get yourself to that 20 minutes. And I would also suggest, as you sort of just did with the previous one, which is maybe you don't ejaculate at all. Maybe you watch your 10 minutes or your 20 minutes or whatever it is, and you can masturbate and don't ejaculate.
Yes.
I know some guys are going, what's going on here? The ground is shaking, like something's happening. It's like, it's possible. You can do that, especially if you've learned how to separate your orgasm from your ejaculation.
Absolutely. And then last but not least is no switching videos. Sit through something fully, because the way people will go use porn is like, I watch 30 seconds or these 10 minutes, you spend 10 minutes to scout for the one clip that lasts 30 seconds that is going to excite you and make you come really quickly.
Yeah. And they'll go right for the cum shot, right for the money shot or whatever it is, and just be like, use it to get off fast.
So maybe switch to more of an erotica or something slower and sit through it and be like, oh, this is what it feels like. Because trust me, even when you have real sex, it's not always like super hot all the time. And so you want to be able to be comfortable when it's not as hot and steamy.
It's like the old days when we were younger before we had access to porn, you know, and you'd watch Skinamax late at night. You'd have to sit through a whole 2-hour movie to get one lame sex scene.
And it was just a tiny little bit of it. You're like, oh my God, I saw a little shade of a boob.
No, that was an elbow.
And as the takeaway, remember, porn is fantasy. Porn is not real life. And, you know, anytime you use porn, either use it with your partner or be honest that you use porn from time to time. Don't make it as something that you hide from your partner or that takes away. Some people will like watch a lot of porn and not give their partner attention anymore. No, that doesn't work. You can't do that. So make sure it's not a substitute if like there's issues in your relationship and you don't want to deal with it. Make sure whenever you use it, it brings you closer to yourself and closer to your partner.
Yeah, and so the title of this episode, Ask the Question, is porn hurting or helping your relationship? So to sum all of this up, the answer to that question is, it all depends how you use it.
So use it wisely.
That's right. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for this episode, and we will see you next week.
We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoyed this show, leave a comment and share it with your friends.
And if you want more, we have an entire digital library with the best sex tips and relationship advice at CelineRemy.com. That's CelineRemy.com. So join us in the Sex Vault to continue this adventure.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.